What's up, my family? Listen, first-time listener, or you've been here the whole damn time. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, giddy up, let's go, no notes.
That's my baby.
That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
What
the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the f*** are you talking about?
What is up, everybody? Rivals back every Monday, 10:30 p.m. We got Penn State talk. We got some NFL talk. We got the MLB playoffs starting tomorrow. Let's go. We want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for tonight, Gleason's Bar. Gleason's Bar is located at 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Use promo code A2D for 10% off your order whenever you dine in, take out, or online. That's Gleason'sBarandSteaks.com. And our poll question for tonight, as you can tell by the Penn State theme, Penn State will make the college football playoffs. I'm going to agree right now. And I know Luke's probably going to go off on a limb and say they're not going to make it because of Coach Franklin, blah, 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 blah. But this team has really, shown up, scoring 30-plus points in now 14 straight games. I don't know another team that does that. I think that's the longest streak in college football to this date. Drew Aller looks really good as a starting quarterback. Finally showed his road poise in the second half against Northwestern when they went on to score 27 unanswered. Nick Singleton, Katron Allen. Katron Allen got hurt this past game. We'll see his injury status. Obviously, still had Trey Potts, the special weapon, actually coming in, scoring 2 touchdowns. And then this defense is just firing on all cylinders. I've said it before. I'll say it again. They're one of, if not the best defense in college football right now. And you look at their schedule ahead. We got a bye week this week. You got UMass the following week. You got Ohio State the week after that. You got Indiana. You got Michigan. Then after that, you got Maryland. You got Maryland, then Michigan. Then you got Rutgers, and then Michigan State. And to me, if you split with Ohio State and Michigan, which the way they're playing right now, I sure as hell hope they beat one of those two teams because we look a hell of a lot better than them. And the rankings have showed it. We're staying consistent. Oh, my God. Yup.
Wow, pick 6 Giants.
Yeah, that is really bad. Anyhow, I'll keep on going on my Penn State tangent because this is just embarrassing at this point. But you talk about a team that is catching their stride at the right time. It's Penn State. And to me, the top 6, I think you got Georgia up there. You got Ohio State up there. You got Michigan. You got Florida State ahead of you. USC I believe, is still behind us. Let me double check. But no, I mean, you split with, like I said, these top 6, Michigan or Ohio State. You're looking at a college football playoff, barring that you can knock down these weaker teams like Indiana, UMass, Michigan State, Maryland. They're nearly not as good as us. We're in a whole different tier than them, if I'm being a whole lot honest. So I'm going to agree to the poll. Penn State will make the college football playoff.
I'm going to disagree with the poll. I have nothing. I don't really have anything to go against what you just said in terms of Penn State and what we have. I love Aller. I'm like a fanboy of his. Love him to death. I think he's amazing. I'm a critic of the coach, and it's hard not to be given his history and the lack of big games that he's won as a part of this program. We've said it on here before. I'm tired of paying a coach $100 million and winning Rose Bowls. I'm past that era. We got to move on. We got to make the playoff and start beating Michigan and Ohio State. But here's an angle to look at it, and I think Penn State fans really need to start looking at it this way. They don't need to split Michigan, Ohio State more so than they need to just win the Ohio State game. What no one's talking about is Ohio State beating Notre Dame was so huge because now if we each go 11-1, and that's what happens, and we're 11-1 and they're 11-1, right? They're going to get in over us. And we're going to get into, I guess, a little bit in terms of who's the best team in the Big Ten. I think it's Michigan. I think they're the best team in terms of top to bottom in the country. I think they're going to beat us, both Ohio State and Penn State. So then the question then becomes, if you beat Ohio State, they have 2 losses penciled in right there. They've lost to us and they've lost to Michigan. You're not getting in with 2 losses. You're just not. Our perspective, again, if we lose that game and we're 11-1 and say their only loss in the whole season is also Michigan, they beat Notre Dame. So we don't have a shot. As much as that Michigan game is huge, and I get it, it really, really is. That's a huge game. It could be huge in terms of, getting a particular seed in the playoff. The more important thing to highlight, if they lose that Ohio State game, the only shot they have at making the playoff is if Ohio State gets upset, per se, by Maryland at home this week. Because that Notre Dame game is fucking massive on their schedule. Winning that game is massive. It's a huge thing in terms of, the playoff and the committee, strength of schedule, all those kinds of things. They would be above Penn State right then and there if we both even out at 11-1. And I'll finish off with this. We do not have what it takes to go in there and beat them because the coach has not proven to win a big game. The quarterback is young. I love him to death. He's amazing. I do agree we probably have a top 1 to 2, top 3, I'll say, for sure, defense in the country. And the main glaring hole in the team, which is shown against Northwestern and shown against every team we've played so far, probably besides the whiteout game, lack of receiver. They don't have a guy that's just like, it's 3rd and 6, it's 3rd and 4, it's 3rd and 8. We got to have this down. We have to have it. Get open for me, which we normally have one of those guys. We don't have it this year. Hopefully next year we do. But, yeah, I just don't think we have what it takes to beat them, and that's pretty much your season in that game.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is going to come down to how we can do against Ohio State on the road and how we can do against Michigan.
But I don't think it does matter how we do against Michigan. Because my thing is, this year especially, the SEC, everyone's just beating up on each other. There's going to be 2 teams in the Big Ten. If we lose to Ohio State, we have 2 losses, in my opinion, because we're not beating them. And even if we beat Michigan at home, we're both 11-1. Ohio State were to beat us, and then they've also beaten Notre Dame. We don't have a shot unless somehow there's 3 Big Ten teams making the playoff. I don't see that. The only shot they have is if they beat Ohio State and go undefeated the rest of the way.
So you're saying if we beat Michigan, lose to Ohio State, Michigan loses to us, beats Ohio State beats both of us, you think Michigan's going to get in over us?
Yes.
After we beat Michigan.
After we beat
Michigan and we lose to Ohio State. I think that is the dumbest thing ever. How are they going to make it in over us if we beat them?
How would Michigan?
Yeah.
Well, then it comes into the strength of schedule thing again. And I also believe that, then it would come to a point where, like, the whole favoritism comes into play. We are not really ranked that high as we should be every week because we're kind of the new beasts, I guess you could say, in this race to make the playoff. Okay. And they were expected to be there. And the other thing is that I think they are the best team in the country. So I don't think it's Georgia. I think the fact that they're ranked number 1 right now is just bullshit. I just think it's, they're a defending champ and they haven't lost a game yet this season. It's a sign of respect. It's nothing more than that. They're not actually the best team in the country this year. If you watch them play, they have a whole lot of weaknesses. Quarterback is not great. Defense is good, but not crazy dominant like past years. So I think it's Michigan from top to bottom. I don't see what you said happening. I don't see them losing to Ohio State personally. I really do not see that happening, especially at home. I don't see that going down.
No, I just think because of a home field advantage, and sure, home field advantage isn't too crucial in college football, but it does play a factor when you're playing in an atmosphere like Beaver Stadium. If we lose to Ohio State and we beat Michigan, it'll put a whole lot of pressure on people to see who's making the college football playoff. But let's look into a bunch of other scores from this past week in college football. We had how Had a good matchup in Utah, Oregon State. DJ, however the hell you say his last name, absolutely blowing Utah out of the water. Utah really suffering without Cam Rising right now. Kentucky absolutely blowing out Florida. USC was up big on Colorado, and Colorado almost pitched a comeback, lost by 7. You had Georgia, Auburn, Georgia winning by a mere touchdown. Texas, Quinn Ewers is an absolute dog. He's been slept on.
I think they might be the second best team in the country right now in terms of offensive dominance. And talk about strength of schedule. I don't give a shit how much of a down year Alabama's had. It's hard to go over there and win. And I thought they did so. I thought they had complete control of that whole game, even though how close it was. I thought they had complete control of that one. I think that let's do this. How about you rank? I'll do my best to rank the top 5 the best I can.
Sure.
1 to me is Michigan. I think they're the best team in the country. I think the second best team in the country is Texas. You look at strength of schedule, who they've beaten, how they've beaten them. I think it has to be them. At number 2, obviously, I understand why Georgia's ranked ahead of them in the AP poll, but who the fuck cares about that? And then 3, I'll go Georgia. I will. I think that they have to be 3 at this point. 4, Ohio State beating Notre Dame is pretty big in my book. I might have to edge them out at 4. But I don't know. And then 5, I guess, would have to be USC just because of the offensive dominance. Defense is not good at all. I just think if we were to go up against them for 6, I think that that's like the battle for 5. I don't know if we could keep up in terms of points. I don't know if we could score, 34, 35 points, 40 points like that.
It'll be interesting. I mean, 1, I'd probably agree with you. That's Michigan. And then 2, probably Georgia. 3, Texas. 4, I really don't. It gets murky with your 4 through 6.
I think it's got to be Ohio State, as much as I hate to say it, just because of that Notre Dame win. I mean, Notre Dame seeming to be
that was a huge win, 100%.
Huge win. They finally have their quarterback, so they look very respectable this year. On the road, too. Got to give them that one for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come down to those final 3 games of the season. I'll continue to just review. You had Mississippi with a big win against LSU. LSU, big disappointment. We had them in our top 5s.
Yeah, I had them making the playoff.
Notre Dame blew out Duke. I think everybody saw that. Tennessee, South Carolina. Tennessee takes actual reign against them this year. After a big upset last year, great, awesome hold. And then Washington in a close game with Arizona. You had Bama blow out Mississippi State. And, yeah, that was pretty much it of Week 5 as we look ahead against Week 6. Luke touched on it earlier, Maryland, Ohio State.
We'll see how that game
is. No, what was
20 points. It's a lot. I think
it's
the
a
fact
lot
that Maryland.
a lot of points.
Wait, rankings don't come out yet, right? They come out.
No, they already came out.
And Maryland's not ranked.
We stayed 1 through 6. The 1 through 6 stayed.
I don't know if that Maryland ranking is kind of bullshit. I think they're a top 25 team in the country. They've handled everyone on their schedule so far, albeit nobodies, but they're in the Big Ten 5-0 right now.
No, that's fair. Everybody. You got LSU, Mizzou. You got Oklahoma, Texas. Great game. Washington State, UCLA, Syracuse, UNC. A good ACC matchup. Bama, A&M.
Louisville being ranked.
Louisville, wow. Notre Dame. Yeah, that'll be an interesting game. Arkansas, Mississippi. A lot of these teams have bye weeks this week. Penn State also, like I mentioned before. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting now halfway through the season after this week, so it'll be interesting to see what's to come for a lot of these college football programs. We're going to take a quick break to give another shout-out to our sponsor, Hats.com. In 2018, Eagles legend Brian Dawkins was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. To commemorate this moment, B-Dawk designed and launched an exclusive collaboration with Bowman Hat Company, America's oldest hat maker, on Hats.com. Brian's love of hats and the Eagles were on proudly display in Canton, and now you can find yourself in that iconic Hall of Fame fedora. Just go to Hats.com and search Brian Dawkins and use the code Philly for 15% off your order. So, yeah, definitely check out the Fedora Awesome hat. Hope to be getting it soon. Why don't we piggyback off Brian Dawkins with the birds? I mean, It was a very interesting game, Luke. You were in attendance. I personally thought the decision with Ron Rivera not going for 2 was probably the most surprising decision of the game. I mean, you got Riverboat Ron. You obviously are less of a you're not as good as Philly, let's be real. And you're going to try and take it to overtime in Lincoln Financial Field and then try and win the game. It just doesn't make sense to me. At that point, I'm going for 2. I'm saying, you know what, Sam Howell, go win me this football game.
Right.
But still came down to the wire. I mean, you had I think it was a 55-yarder from Jake Elliott to win the game.
I think it's 54, 55, yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, what were your thoughts on that game?
I mean, I think that some people are kind of overreacting a tad bit. I completely agree with you in terms of going for 2. I was shocked that they didn't. As a fan rooting for the Eagles, I was praying that they didn't. And for whatever reason, they didn't. And his excuse, borderline fireable offense, I get he's a respectable head coach in the league. But, I mean, for him to come out and say that his offense was tired. How about the defense? They look pretty fucking tired, too. It goes both ways on that one. So, I don't know if I fully agree with his mindset on that one, but I'll take it, I guess, for my team. People want to call out the defense, and I understand that because that was an embarrassing display, and they have to 1,000,000% show up better than that. That was an unacceptable performance on any level. There's down days, and there's also unacceptable performances, and that was one of them for sure. I'm not freaking out yet because the first 3 weeks of the season, it was such a strength, so I'm not going to go ahead off a short week against a divisional opponent that always plays him tough and just be like, oh, fired Desai. We'll give him another shot. We'll see what he does this week. He has a full week to prepare against a team with terrible offensive line. We'll get into a preview soon. But, yeah, I'll say this about the Birds. Something I said last week that's a concern, and now it's elevated to that point. I understand we scored 34 points. That's awesome. That's great. There were so many times in that game, that we made our lives harder on the offensive side of the ball than they needed to be. For example, I understand it's easy to say this now. It is really easy to say this now. I wish we could have my whole section at the game at the link on the pod so they could get, confirm this shit. We score that touchdown to go up with AJ, the last touchdown of the game, to go up a Todd. And then defense goes back in the field. The whole fucking stadium, the whole link is nuts. I'm sitting there straight face like, what the fuck are we doing? I don't understand it. Your defense that day was a fucking disgrace and embarrassment. It was the liability to your team. It was the only reason that game was close. The only reason. You invest $100 million per season in your offensive line. You needed 4 yards, and you got probably, in your opinion, the clutchest kicker in the game right now as of date. On your sideline. You needed 4 yards. The other team had 1 timeout, 2nd and 4. I understand you want to take points. I get that. Same time, when my defense is playing like shit, and there's more than a minute and a half left on the clock, I don't want them taking the field back at all because I don't trust them. I'm going 4 yards forward, easy. It's simple as shit. Just 4 yards forward, 10 yards forward, whatever it is, burn a timeout, game's over. Game is over. Because that's a shorter field goal than the one he ended up taking to win the damn game in overtime. I mean, what a fucking disgrace. I do not understand that decision at all. And let me tell you something. They will learn from that, and they will not do that again. But the other thing about it is that I get it. They want to split time between Gainwell and Swift. I think some fans are kind of freaking a little bit too much out about how much Swift plays compared to Gainwell. They're saving him. Swift gets hurt every year of his career. I'm not freaking about that much more so than I am. They have to run the ball more. There are too many times on first down, too many times on second down where they just don't say, have fun stopping this shit. Have fun. They spend too much time, too much money on their offensive line, too much draft capital on their offensive line to not just say, win us this game. Win us this game. Because people want to forget, I get it, we had 34 points. First half was a struggle. And too many times they had him sitting back there doing all this kind of shit. And I'll ask you this question because you obviously don't watch it from, as closely as I do, just like I don't watch as close to the Giants as you do. But last year, they ran the ball more effectively, and it seemed to be a when in doubt option. Like, when in doubt, we're playing like shit. Let's have our offensive line win us this game. That's what we did. This year, we're not seeing that as much. Also, what we're seeing this year is that design run from Jalen has been completely unaffected.
He just doesn't look the same. He doesn't look the same in
My
speed.
thing is that I think they're telling him to be more conservative. They don't want him to take hits. And that's why he's not breaking tackles more so than he did last season. And that's fine. I'm cool with that. He hasn't had open holes and open lanes nearly as much on those design runs as he did last season.
Sure.
The Super Bowl, I think they did that like 12 different times, it felt like, on a 2-point conversion in the red zone, a million different times in that game, in just the Super Bowl alone, in the playoffs alone. And they haven't gotten that play right whatsoever. And to me, is that have anything to do with scheme and how they're drawing that shit up on off the coordinator standpoint? I'm not complaining yet. It's early and we're 4-0 because we talked about it last week. If you're complaining for a 4-0 team, there's 31 other fan bases that would totally take your spot completely. But I will tell you this. I'm starting to get more and more concerned and more worried about the offensive coordinator and his play calling and what, he's prepared and what he's gone into each game so far this season, because it hasn't been great. It really has not been great.
No, it's definitely been questionable. But I think after you had A.J. Brown have his little conflict with Jalen Hurts, you're not like the offense is still producing. They're still scoring, but we haven't really seen Smitty these past 2 weeks. And it's interesting to see how this offense is now morphed around A.J. Brown rather than their young receiver, Smitty. And sure, I'll say it up front. A.J. Brown is better than Smitty. However, when you have two talents like that, you're going to need to get them both the ball. You're going to need to get them both at least 5 receptions. It doesn't mean let's get A.J. Brown 11 receptions and get Devontae Smith.
I mean,
4.
how about the third guy? Because to me, it's like Devontae at least had the Minnesota game where A.J. didn't really do much at all, and he took over that game. When the hell is Dallas Goedert? I feel like every week, every Monday, they go into the presser and are like, yeah, we got to get him the ball. We got to get him the ball. And I heard the same thing this week, and he hasn't had a featured game once, and they don't even really target him at all.
No,
that takes the top off completely in terms of how dominant your offense is.
No, it's been very it's been very interesting to watch. I mean, obviously they're still producing. We saw it this past week. But let's dive into more of the other games, and then I can touch on my disgrace of a team after. You had the Lions-Packers game. Lions blew them out, honestly, and to think it was a 2-score game was a bit surprising. I mean, you had a team that took advantage of being in Lambeau Field and just ran them up and down the field. David Montgomery, great return. Jared Goff, I said it before, I'll say it again. He's a top 10 quarterback. This defense looked a whole lot better than they normally do. They're going to be a team to watch in that NFC North. Falcons, Jags, if you were up early, Jags took advantage of the Falcons, took care of them. Rams, Colts, Rams took it to OT. Probably shouldn't have needed OT, but Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, two emerging stars this NFL season. You had Ravens, Browns, no Deshaun Watson, so Ravens took care of business there. Lamar, Mark Andrews to lead the way.
Dominant.
Vikings, Panthers, a bit of a toss-up, 2 0-3 teams. Vikings took care of business. Adam Thielen revenge game wasn't enough. Titans took care of the Bengals, and we'll talk a little bit about this right now. What is wrong with the Bengals right now? And you could say, sure, you could say the obvious, and I'll say the obvious. It's because Joe Burrow is hurt. What else is causing this lack of production right now?
I mean, I just think that that's first and foremost, that's way more important than anything. I think sometimes you go into a season and you get hurt preseason, whether it be one injury or many injuries, and you can kind of just tell going into it it's not going to be your year. And I think I didn't expect it to be this bad, but I don't think anyone had them slated to make the Super Bowl or anything like that once he went down that early in the offseason. But I think the other thing is that it seems like, and he's been sacked a bunch his whole career, it's hard to win Super Bowls that way, and I think your Giants are another great example of that. But they've just gotten offensive line wrong. And I think it was last year they finally started spending money on it, And it
Sure.
seemed that maybe the money they spent wasn't wasn't helping them all that much anyway, because these guys that they brought in, I mean, they brought the guy from Kansas City, Brown from Kansas City. He also played in Baltimore, I believe, too.
Sure.
He's
Orlando Brown, and then they also had Collins, who they called Lyle Collins.
And both of them are having career low years, and they're two guys that going into it, they had a very, very, very high expectation for.
Sure.
So I just think it's a combination of, and also T. Higgins getting hurt now, that doesn't help anything either. So I think it's a combination of just injuries galore throughout the whole offense. And, you also lose Jesse Bates, a guy in your locker room. That ain't easy either. And the other thing is just overrated, I guess, offensive line. Guys that just aren't living up to the hype.
Yeah. No, you hit every nail on the head. It's when are they going to flip that switch? And it's surely not going to be anytime soon. I truly think at this point you got to give Joe Burrow a week or two off and just say, hey, rest that calf injury, because they're not easy to come back from. They sure as hell is not. But we had the Bucs and the Saints. Bucs surprisingly took care of business. Alvin Kamara returned, absolute PPR monster if you have him in fantasy. I think he had 13 receptions. Bills, Dolphins. Bills surprisingly took care of the Dolphins. Josh Allen, it's his year. I mean, 5 touchdowns in that game. Diggs with 3 of them. You had the toilet bowl on the Broncos versus the Bears.
Russ finally. Fuck? Can we spend some time on this shit? I mean, Jesus God.
No.
What the hell? I was at the game, so I wasn't able to watch it. But they have the scores up at the top. During the game while the game's going on. I look up. I'm like, wow, like good for Justin Fields. Maybe they'll fucking turn the shit around. Maybe they'll turn shit around. They put an update on the. Yeah, I was having a good time. I was drinking a few cold ones, and then I look, and then I lost track of it. And then they do the like red zone update in the stadium. They show video, and then I look up and they lost. I was like, what the hell happened? I mean, what a fucking disgrace. The Broncos are an utter embarrassment too. Not to save them from anything. Same time, what a fucking joke. Everyone in Chicago should be fired. I haven't watched enough of Bears games to tell you whether it's a Justin Fields issue. Personally, I don't think that's the case. I think that they're really, really, really bad on the offensive and defensive line. Who did they drafted offensive lineman, correct, in the draft this year?
You might be right.
I believe they did, but I'll ask you a question.
I know they definitely traded back.
Right, I'll ask you a question right now. How the hell didn't they pick Jalen Carter?
It's.
I mean, what the hell?
I just don't know how he fell so far.
I mean, I'm not going to get into an Eagles perspective, but you need. I think they traded down to 10, I believe.
Darnell Wright.
Right.
You're
okay.
Right.
So,
out of Tennessee.
I mean, I don't watch enough game to tell you if this guy's having a good or bad year.
Well, Jalen Carter was picked before him.
He was picked before him, and to me, I mean, Jesus Christ! I mean, a team like that needs talent. That's it. That is completely and utterly it. They need talent no matter where it comes, and especially in the trenches, offensive and defensive line. You're talking about a guy who people say are probably the best prospect on the defensive line they've seen in a while, probably the best player in the draft. Falling you that far, I don't give a shit what he did in college, especially after it cleared up too. I do not understand how he fell. We're not getting into that. But just how the hell do you not draft someone like that with that talent, having him fall to you? You trade the number 1 overall pick, you go all the way back to there, and you still have the opportunity to get the best player in the draft, and you don't take him. I mean, let that make some sense. I do not understand that at all.
No, it's definitely interesting how he's not even like protecting Fields. They look horrendous. But moving on, you had the Texans, Steelers. CJ Stroud looking like the best rookie quarterback coming out of this class. You had Raiders, Chargers. Chargers somehow made it a game, which, I mean, it's embarrassing. You're playing against Alex, so Aiden O'Connell. I think he was out of Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken, but just an awful showing. I mean, the Chargers should have blown him out. You had the 49ers taking care of business against Arizona. Christian McCaffrey, absolute monster. Patriots, Cowboys. Cowboys take care of business. And then you had Chiefs, Jets. Chiefs, surprisingly, only a 3-point victory. Before we get into my giant spew, because I have a lot to say after this loss, we're going to take a commercial break to Royal Billiards.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
Yeah, check out Royal Billiards. There are guys, pool tables, hot tubs, your best man cave needs. Check them out. RoyalBilliards.com.
Michigan fan in the chat.
Michigan fan in the chat. Jeez, Don, what up?
I was just saying that props to you. I was just saying that from a Penn State perspective, I do believe Michigan is the best team in the country right now. In case you missed it and you're just joining, but we'll get. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about that. Let's move.
Yeah. Watching the Giants game right now while we're doing this, it's horrendous. And some people are going to blame Daniel Jones. And tonight, sure, you can blame Daniel Jones. He's got 2 interceptions. He has a fumble. But when you're getting sacked 10 times a game and you're going out there play after play constantly, you got to give the guy some fucking money. Sure, I'm not going to justify $40 million is what he deserved, what he should have right now. I justified it before, and I clearly can't justify it right now as he is not performing the way all the Giants fans expected him to. However, it's just hard to watch at this point. I mean, you're getting beat up by a mediocre team at best in the Seahawks. Sure, I think they have a chance at winning their division in the NFC South, in NFC West, which, I mean, is interesting now with the 49ers taking full control, but it's a wildfire in New York right now. I mean, who is going to take control of this offense? Who's going to take control of this defense? When is the misery going to stop? Because you're now losing. You lost this game. It's 21-3, 6 minutes to go in the fourth. You lost this game. You got Miami, you got Buffalo, and then you got the Commanders. And now we can't even chalk off the Commanders as a win. We're probably going to chalk it off as a loss. When are you going to give up? Are you going to give up 2 games from now, 3 games from now, 4 games from now? Are you going to roll over after today and be like, you know what, season's over. Let's go get a guy in this draft? Because Daniel Jones, as much as I'm a Daniel Jones supporter, he is not our guy. And I justified his contract last week. Sure, I had a lot of haters in the comments saying, why the hell is Daniel Jones making $40 million a year? Sure. But after seeing this misperformance tonight, after seeing just a lot of ugly football from the Giants, I can't really be too optimistic. Obviously, Thibodeau just recorded his 2nd sack, finally getting his show on the road. He had a rough start to last season too, so hopefully it's a repeat. But this O-line, I mean, like I said, 10 sacks, and this guy is still standing in the pocket. He's still, you know what, I'm going to get back out there. I'm going to keep on working. It's just, how much longer does this guy have? How much longer do the Giants have? What's the solution going to be?
Yeah.
And I'm not rushing Saquon Barkley back. I'm not rushing Andrew Thomas back. Excuse me. But it's just, at this point, unless the guy has a first name of Dexter, Andrew, or Saquon, we should consider getting them out of this wildfire of a team.
Yeah. My main thing to you is, and this is my big takeaway with the Giants, if you're a Giants fan, right, and you obviously have more of an awareness in terms of who they're bringing in, where their money's being spent, where their draft picks are being spent, I want to ask you this question, because I said this right after week 1, because I fell for the bullshit. I fell for the Dable thing. I fell for all that going into the season. I thought they were going to be a playoff team. I'll tell you this right now. If you're the Giants, what do you go into every single game saying, I know that this group is going to show up. I know I can hang my hat. This group is going to show up for me and my team. This is how we're going to win games. What is that? Because to me, it's nothing. And clearly it's not their offensive line. Last year, you look at it, and it was their ability to get after the quarterback, send pressure.
Defense.
It was the defense, and it was number 26. Look at it this year. Defense, they don't have the bodies whatsoever, it seems like, this year at all. And 26, not only do they not have on the field, but he seems completely mentally checked out. So you want to talk to me about, and this is coming from somebody's perspective who, not a Giants fan.
Sure.
They didn't give him his money. They didn't. And I understand they went over this fucking bullshit agreement, whatever you want to word it. That's fine. He's going to be a free agent this offseason. He can go wherever the hell he wants. And if I'm him, why the hell would I want to go back unless I go to them and I say, what were you thinking? You should assign me to a blank check, whatever I asked for. And unless they give him that blank check, unless they do that, why the hell would I want to go back there? Because they haven't protected me offensive line-wise whatsoever. They haven't won a lot of games. And when they have won a lot of games, it was all on his behalf. So, you look at a guy like McCaffrey. In Carolina, people forget this because he got traded and then boom, his career took back off.
Sure.
He was, injury-riddled once that Newton thing was kind of winding down, and they were not taking good care of him at all. And then it seemed like, once he went to San Francisco, all of a sudden he's healthy and they're taking good care of him, and he's like the best player in the whole fucking league. If I'm Saquon Barkley, I look at that. I'm like, why the hell would I want to go back to this mess? So I'm not more so worried about, if I'm a Giants guy, I'm worried about what we have now, but I'm also worried about the best player and the most valuable player on my team having no interest in what I'm building right now. How could you?
No, you bring up a very fair point, and it's the fact that they don't spend on the O-line. And we talked about this pre-show. We talked about who's on our O-line right now. The starting O-line, when healthy, great. The 10th sack of the game. Their starting O-line, when healthy, is first-round pick in Andrew Thomas, a traded from the Ravens to the Giants this past offseason, Ben Bredesen, a second-round pick in John Michael Schmitz. Your right guard right now is so undecided. You had Lewinsky to start the season. You now have Marcus McKeithen, drafted in the 5th year last year. And then you have another first-rounder in Evan Neal. And clearly you're not drafting right, because if you were drafting these O-linemen right, you wouldn't be getting sacked 10 times a game. You'd be getting sacked minimal times a game, like a team like the Eagles, like a team like the 49ers. Their quarterbacks are taking maybe 5 QB hits, 1 or 2 of which are sacks. Daniel Jones has probably taken 20 QB hits, and the fact that he's still going out there day after day, sure, he's gonna get some disrespect from me. In the end, you got to have a whole lot of nuts to get out there day after day and take those hits and just keep on going back to work. And there's no offensive production. The defense is starting to show up just a little bit. It's hard, though. And you said it before, the defense hasn't gotten a good pass rush. And I'm not at all going to make it an excuse, because it's definitely not an excuse. But the offense cannot move the ball, which is just okay. We're going to go 4 and out. Defense back on the field. 4 and out. Defense back on the field. It's abysmal. It's abysmal. This offense is horrendous. This defense gets worn out by the second quarter. I have little to no hope at this point, and it's a quarter of the way through the season.
That's a good point, too. And I said it last week, and I'll tell you the same exact thing watching this game, even though they put up 3 points at home on Monday Night Football. I'll tell you this right to your face. I'll have to say the same exact thing. I don't think Daniel Jones is the problem at all. And I think I think a lot of times people just, they refuse to watch a game or really refuse to understand some aspects of how football works. And they look at the scoreboard and they're like, oh, who's quarterbacking the Giants who put up 3 points today? He must stink. You watch the game. He doesn't have any type of time to get the ball off.
He's 26 to 33. He has 2 interceptions. Sure, they were both bad. They were both horrible.
And 2 things with that. One is, do me a favor, go across the entire league. There are much worse quarterbacks in the league than Daniel Jones. I would rather have Daniel Jones than more than half the quarterbacks in the league right now. No doubt about it.
Sure.
No doubt about it. Mm-hmm. The other thing is who the hell is he throwing the ball to? I get it. You want to hype up this Hodgins guy. You want to hype up Hyde, who I think is a good player, sure. But, I mean, at some point, you got to say, who the fuck even are these guys? And at some point, you're going to hype them up because they're professional football players and they get so much volume because there's no one else on the goddamn team that there's going to be hype around them at some point because there's no one else on the team. So obviously they're going to get some type of hype around them. Sure, I get that. But, I mean, this kind of reminds me of, like, the days where the Eagles sucked with Wentz towards those last few years and people were jerking off Travis Fulgham, acting like he was the next fucking like Randy Moss, and now he's not even in the fucking league anymore. I think you'll see this with some of these Giants guys too. Like these guys, they ain't shit. I'm not really worried about them at all going into a matchup at all. So I mean, how could you blame Daniel Jones? Essentially, is my point.
Yeah. Before we'll get to our last topic, before shout out to the week, we'll preview a little bit into week 5. You got the Bears Commanders. Commanders should take full advantage of them. You got the Jags against the Bills. Interesting matchup. I think that game is in London again. Jags and staying in London. Saints Patriots, 2 very awful teams. Titans Colts. Colts should take care of business there. Ravens Steelers, good divisional matchup. Panthers Lions. Lions will take care of business. Texans Falcons. Falcons. It'll be an interesting game.
Let's go.
Giants Dolphins. I have no faith after today, so Dolphins will manhandle us. Bengals Cardinals. Let's see if the Bengals can get a second win on the board. You got Birds Rams in LA. It'll be an interesting game after this past week. We'll see what they can do. And then you got Jets Broncos, Chiefs Vikings, Cowboys 49ers on Sunday, and Packers Raiders on Monday. So pretty good slate.
That Niners game's pretty fucking big, dude.
Yeah, it'll be
big
interesting.
For the Birds, one of those teams are going to lose. That's big.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. We'll talk about week 5 next week on A2D or on Rivals. But tonight, to close it out before we do our shout out of the week, we're going to get into a little playoff baseball talk. We got 4 matchups starting tomorrow, so we're going to give our takes on these matchups and the series, and Luke's going to get into a little bit of the Phillies, and then we'll maybe give our World Series predictions too. So to start off tomorrow, I believe we have the Rays against the Rangers.
What a series that is too.
I'm very excited for that. Mid-season, I had the Rangers coming out of the West or the AL for me, excuse me. So I'll be rooting for them. You got Montgomery against Glass now on the bump tomorrow. Pretty good pitching matchup. Rays are definitely not going to fare too well without the loss of McClanahan. We'll see how they do, but that matchup starts on at 3 tomorrow. And you know what? I'm going to stick with my boys in Texas. I'm going to take the Rangers.
Yeah, I think a lot of times Tampa Bay gets a little bit too much hype going into it. I think given the people want to forget this, I get it. It's a long season that they play a shit ton of games, but what did they go off to? Like 13-0 or something fucking ridiculous like that?
They had the best record through, I think, the first 40 or 50 games.
They had such an advantage, and then they always seem to kind of tail off. I think you go in terms of talent and pitching more importantly. Tampa got hurt as the year went on. I think the Rangers have the advantage in terms of talent and pitching in that series. I kind of agree with you on that one.
Sure, yeah. So then we'll get into the second series of the day. First pitch at about 4:38. You got the Blue Jays against the Twins. And to me, if there's one team I'm very confident in the first round, it is the Blue Jays. To be honest, I don't know how the Twins got to the playoffs. That AL Central is very murky. You got the Twins, you got the Guardians, and then not much behind them. I believe you got the White Sox in that division too. And I'm blanking on the bottom 2 teams, but I just don't think the pitching of the Twins is going to be able to carry them. I think they're going to need some bats behind them. Correa and Buxton haven't looked all that great. Luke, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't really understand how they made the playoffs either. The division fucking stinks. I think that I do believe the Guardians finished below 500 too. So it was kind of like a walk-in for them to make it. I don't think that should be very close at all. I completely agree.
Yeah. Next matchup of the day, first pitch at 7:08. You got the D-backs against the Brewers. Interesting. No expected Zach Gallen first game. It's Brendan Fott against Corbin Burns in Milwaukee. That's probably my favorite series to watch this first round. Definitely going to be the most competitive. A lot of just both gritty teams, both pretty good front of the rotation. I mean, we're going to see hopefully 3 good games from 3 good pitching matchups. Obviously, Corbin Burns, one of the Cy Young favorites coming out of the NL. So we'll see how that game fares. Luke, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. As a Phillies guy, we kind of are pulling for Arizona, I guess, in this case. Had more success with them this season. It's fun to project a matchup with them, or hopefully they take down LA or some shit like that. I don't know, but yeah, I guess I agree with you. But in terms of a Phillies perspective, I guess it doesn't fully matter who wins these series.
Yeah. And then we get into your boys tomorrow night, 8:38, against the Marlins, and Alcantara are hurt, so you got Jesus Luzardo going game 1 against your boy Zach Wheeler. Interesting. I mean, who's your starting lineup if you're Rob Thompson tomorrow? Who are the 9 you're sending out there tomorrow? In the lineup?
We've talked about it before, and I think we're definitely on the same page. I think that you got center field, you got to switch lefty righty in terms of what's going on there. I get it. There's a Marsh love affair. I'm one of them. I think he's great, and he was phenomenal in the playoffs last year. So you kind of have to stick him out as much as you can. I get it, but this Rojas guy is just a defensive ace and has been getting a little bit better as the season's going on in terms of the offensive side of things and batting. So I feel like you kind of have to do that, and I think that they will. In terms of DH spot, that's very interesting. I think the 2 obvious candidates are Harper and Schwarber. To my memory, I could be wrong. There was a whole lot of games in that run, but to my memory, I don't remember there ever being a moment, a big-time moment at least, or a game where Schwarber was really a liability in left field. I get the people that want to stick him out there. I really do, but I think that they have the bodies and they have the talent to hide him from being out there, and I think that they have to do it as much as they can.
No.
And I here's the other thing. Like Cave, I like Cave a lot. If you have to play him, is he an everyday starter? Absolutely not in the playoffs. But I don't have a problem with, say, they go out there game 1 and they play Schwarber in left field and he stinks up the joint and they don't ever want to go back to that and Cave has to play the rest of the series. I have no problem with that at all. I think he's a good 9 spot in that 9 hole, and I don't have a problem with him playing that 9 spot, playing left field whatsoever. And Bryce Harper at first base has gotten increasingly better throughout the year. It's kind of like, not much errors seen at that position anyway. So yeah, it's very interesting, but we talked about it after the deadline. They did a great job in terms of putting themselves in a position to have options. And those, say what you want about talent, and that's everything, and your stars need to show up in the playoffs 1,000,000%. Above all else, in my opinion, the number one thing you have to have going into the postseason, the MLB, is options. And I think the Phillies have a lot of options, both in the field, in the batting order, and also pitching as well. This Lorenzen guy, he's been kind of dog shit ever since his no-hitter. But now you're looking at a guy who is a very, very respectable bullpen guy you could bring out of there. So They just have a ton of option and a lot of room for Robbie Thompson to fuck up there in the dugout and make some poor decisions. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. And in terms of what I project them to do in their 9, I have no idea, to be honest with you. I think it will be different game in, game out in terms of righty-lefty, in terms of who's hot and who's not. And I don't have a problem with that because, again, they can call somebody in, and I have a lot of confidence in whoever they might call up.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. Do you throw Bohm at first and DH Harper? Do you throw Bohm at third, Harper at first, and then you DH Schwarber and you throw Marsh and Rojas in center and left?
Yeah, I get it. His calling is not first base. However, I've seen a massive, and we've all seen it, I think DHing Harper is a mistake. I do not want him sitting there. We pay him too much money, and he's too damn talented to sit there on his ass. And I get it. First base isn't some demanding position, and especially for his sake. He hasn't played it a whole bunch. But even when he started playing the first base, I think there's a whole psychological thing that goes on when you sit there the whole fucking game and you sit on your ass. It's somebody who hasn't done that his whole career, and then go out there as a DHing. His numbers have gone up completely when he's played on first base, and I think that has a lot to do with just being involved. When he's sitting there, he's thinking about his next at bat the entire time. I'm totally cool with him, being Everflow, just going with the flow of the game, and really kind of just, I think you got to ride that out. And Schwarber's DH'd, I believe, like a lot throughout his career. Sure. And I think, the more they've DH'd him, his batting numbers, I don't believe, have gone down as much as Harper has. So I'm not a big fan of DHing Harper. I get you have to do it some nights.
Sure.
But as a game one, this is a must-win game kind of situation. I'm not a fan of DHing him whatsoever.
Sure. Yeah. So let's get into more wild card series predictions, and then as we go forward, we'll keep on advancing with the rounds and maybe get to a World Series prediction. So, Tampa Bay, Texas, who you got?
Well, first predict the Phillies game, the World Series.
I'm going to take the Phillies.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to say this. Tomorrow night, the bank's going to be rocking. It's going to be a good time. And they made it. Every game is 8 o'clock for a damn reasons, because they saw that shit last year, and they're trying to, numbers went bonkers, and it's probably one of the more, today, in terms of what I'm seeing now, could be the biggest home field advantage in the playoff as of today. Debatable for sure. But tomorrow is a Game 7-like situation. I get it. It's Game 1. You have your number one guy going into this series. It's lopsided as all hell, I believe, in this Game 1. You have to win this game. You cannot leave it up to Nola and, we assume, Ranger Suarez in Game 3. Cannot let that happen. This is a must-win. I think the winner of tomorrow's game wins the series, but I will go with the Phillies because you got to believe in Wheeler after what he did last postseason.
Sure. Okay, so then your second-round matchups, I'm going to go with Texas against the Orioles, and I did predict the Rangers to keep on rolling through, so I'll stick with them. I think Montgomery, Scherzer, Eovaldi, whoever else they got out there, whether it's Dane Dunning, I think they get the job done against the Orioles. I'm not a huge fan of their pitching staff. They got Kyle Gibson. They got Ken Bradish. Who else they got? They got Dean Kramer, Jack Flaherty. Not much in their rotation. So give me the Orioles. So Tampa Bay, Texas. Who you got?
Tampa Bay, Texas. This is a tough one. Oh, wait, no. We predicted that, right? I'm going Texas for sure.
Yeah. So then Texas, Orioles.
Yeah. Texas, Orioles. Orioles are a young team. I think Texas has the talent, and I think too many times we see wild card teams go on deep runs, and I think they have the talent to do so, and more importantly, the pitching to do so, and the experience in Scherzer, as you said. I guess I'll go Texas there, although I'm not all that comfortable.
Sure. Minnesota, Toronto. I think we were both unanimously on Toronto.
Yep.
I unfortunately see the Astros going back to the ALCS and maybe even making a World Series run. Who knows? I'm going to stay faithful to the Rangers. Luke, who you got?
I got them as well, no doubt.
Milwaukee, Arizona, winner of that. So I'm gonna go with the dark horse. I'm gonna go with Arizona, but I think nobody's taking care of the Dodgers, whether it's the Brewers or the Diamondbacks. Give me the Dodgers in round 2.
You have to. That's a no doubter.
And then you got your Phillies, Marlins. So I think the Phillies take care of business in the bank against the divisional rivals, the Braves. Took care of business last year. Braves lineup, obviously, one of, if not the best. I think they had like 340 total home runs this whole season. What a powerhouse. Their one possible weak spot, is it going to be their rotation? And you talk about Max Fried, you talk about Spencer Strider, 2 of the game's probably top 15 best pitchers. I won't say top 10 because I don't have a list out in front of me, but I will confidently say top 15. But how weak are they to get beaten by the Phillies? Is it going to happen again? I don't think so. I'm going to take the Braves in the round 2 in the ALCS.
As much as I want the
or
Phillies,
ALDS.
right? As much as I want the Phillies to pull this one off, I don't see it happening this year. I think that the guys on Atlanta this year are just having too big of seasons, and again, I completely agree with you. The one weakness they might have is the rotation. And the only shot the Phillies have at beating them would be to just completely dominate them in terms of pitching, which they kind of did to a certain extent last year in that series last year with Nola and Wheeler especially. And Strider made a fucking fool out of himself in that series last year. But I'll tell you this, there's one thing that travels in baseball. Sometimes the bats don't travel, and that's obvious. But I think a lot of times the most obvious thing you can point to that travels is pitching. Will that happen for the Phillies? That's something you have to hang your hat on and hope happens. It's the only shot they have of winning the series. But I think as a predictor, someone who's trying to maintain credibility, it's hard to bet against Atlanta right now. I have to go with Atlanta. Would love to see the upset again.
Yeah, and then your ALDS, Texas against
on the same page right now.
Texas against the Astros. Yeah, so it's hard to go with the obvious favorite of. It's hard to not go with the obvious favorite of the Astros, but I'm gonna go. I stuck with it mid-season, and I'll keep on sticking with it. The Rangers got a whole lot of young studs in their lineup. You got Corey Seager, you got Marcus Semien, you got Josh Young returning from injury, you got Jonah Heim, you got Adolis Garcia, and then you got a bunch of other guys that surround them. And Nathaniel Lowe, their corner outfielders are, I believe, Robbie Grossman and Leody Tavares. Their bullpen is iffy, but I do really love the starters that they got in Eovaldi, in Montgomery, in Scherzer, in Dane Dunning, in John Gray. I mean, if they had DeGrom, it would be a no-brainer. But, yeah, I'm going to take Texas in that matchup.
Ooh, I said it. We're both sticking to our picks mid-season. I said it. I look like a fucking idiot, but I'll say it all over again. I hate them with all my heart, with all my passion. I hate watching them be successful and go on these runs every year. I said it mid-season, but I'll say it again. The Astros are going to make the World Series. And it's less crazy now than when we last said it, and they were like barely even in the play. I don't even know if they were in the picture yet, the Astros, when I said that. And the reason I said it was I related to football. I feel like, sometimes there's seasons where shit's just up in the air, and you don't know who the hell's coming out of what division, what conference or anything, and the guys that come out are just, oh, shocker, it's us again. It's how it works, and I think that's exactly what's going on this year. I called it months ago, and I'm sticking to it. I think that the Astros are going to make the World Series again, sadly, but spoiler alert, I'll just jump you real quick. Braves beat the Dodgers. Braves, make it real quick. Braves, Astros rematch. I have the Braves taking this one. Talent is a little bit too much, and the power is a little bit too much. I mean, how could you not go Olsen? How could you not?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think the Braves take care of the Dodgers and then go on to take care of business against Texas. I don't know who's going to beat them. I don't know how anybody's going to beat them, but give me the obvious favorite in the Braves. Ronald Acuna, World Series MVP. I was going to say Olsen, but I'll branch off from you. Catch up on the comments a little bit. Eagles predictions, they still own the NFC East. Yeah, after this week, I mean, sure, you could argue Dallas's defense is maybe better than the Birds. I'll take that side, and I'll take that side in the argument. I might have a little bit of bias. I'm obviously not the biggest fan of the Philadelphia Eagles growing up outside of Philly, but yeah, I mean,
I could get behind that one.
I just don't. I think the margin of difference between Dallas defense and Philly defense, and then Dallas offense and Philly offense, is tremendously more on the offensive side, that Philly takes the advantage by a whole bigger margin. And to me, this Philly offense is going to blow. Philly offense is going to get back on the field. They're going to drive it down their throats. Sure, they might not score a touchdown. Maybe they'll score 3. Then you got Dallas. They might get 3. But the Eagles' offense will always prevail against this Dallas defense.
Yep.
The Dallas offense is not going to keep up with them. So yes, Eagles still earn the NFC East. Cowboys haven't won anything. Go State. Yes, we will. Yes, let's go State. Family has been season ticket holders at Beaver for 30 years. Love Beaver. Giants mixing a lineman this century. Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see what they do in this upcoming draft. Obviously early, shaping like we're gonna have a top 5 pick. Could we draft an offensive lineman? Could we draft a quarterback? Could we draft a receiver? Who knows? Olsen 54 and 130 and not the NL MVP is utterly insane. Yeah, I mean
World Series MVP.
I think he'll get the World Series MVP. But it is very insane that a guy's going to dominate like that all season and still not get the hardware. Will Eagles win the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts? I don't know. It's a little early to say that right now. I mean, to be honest, obviously you had Brock Purdy get hurt last year. I guarantee you he somehow finds a way to get hurt this year. Barring he stays healthy, it'll be an interesting NFC Championship matchup between the 49ers and the Eagles. And then coming out of the AFC, I really don't know right now because if you asked me last week, I would have said the Dolphins easily. But after getting manhandled by Josh Allen and the Bills, it's kind of murky. And you can't even say the Chiefs because the Chiefs defense looked horrendous against Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson had his best game of the season. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Will the Eagles win the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts? I truly don't have an answer for you.
Yeah, I think we will win a Super Bowl. I'll tell you that. This year, I think it's another good shot. I think you look across the league, there's a lot of bad teams, a lot of mediocre teams. I think that they easily are – they should be the favorites to get out of the NFC right now. And I'll tell you why. And we've talked about this in a previous show before. I'll say this to you right now. This whole Shanahan thing, he is completely, utterly overrated. I will die on that hill. Look at this guy. I mean, somehow every quarterback he's ever coached has gotten hurt. And at some point, it's got to lie on the coach. He's had his fingertips all over that 28-3 thing where he didn't fucking want to run the ball at all. Sure, that's a little bit on the head coach. Also, as a guy who's calling the plays, I think there's some responsibility lied on you as well. I'll also put you on this, too. Whether it be Garoppolo, whether it be Purdy, whether it be Kirk Cousins in Washington when he was in there, or whether it be Trey Lance. No one wants to talk about him. All these guys get hurt. All of them. All of them did. And at some point, I got to look at the fact that, the head coach has something to do with it. And I'll pinpoint this. People want to say Eagles fucking Disneyland trip to go to the Super Bowl. Easy as shit. Okay. I'm not saying it, it could have been harder if Purdy was healthy in that game. No doubt about it. Do me a favor, though. What happened on that play he got hurt? What happened? Hassan Reddick, who was, I think, the second leader in sacks in the NFL, maybe third, something like that, probably up there, top 5 pass rusher in the NFL last year, Hassan Reddick, being blocked one-on-one by a tight end. That's the play he got hurt. And that's completely on your play caller. Who's designing that shit? Who's allowing that to happen? This happens all the time. I'm not predicting him to get hurt, but what I am predicting is whether it be in the NFC title game, whether it be in the Super Bowl, book this right now. As good as the Niners team today, they will not win the Super Bowl because he will not win them.
It'll be interesting. Before we wrap it up, we'll give our shout-outs of the week. I'll say in the Penn State realm, since I started off with Penn State, I'll finish it with Penn State. Shout-out to Chop Robinson and Abdul Carter, the 2 leaders of this Penn State defense right now. They're putting on a show. Obviously not a very tough opponent in Northwestern, but you shut them out in the second half, scored 27 unanswered without a single point coming from Northwestern. You got a long road ahead, but you've taken care of business so far. I couldn't ask for a better start to the season. Let's keep rolling. We are.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a crazy one. By the way, see the comment, George Kittle is the lead blocker. It wasn't even George Kittle was blocking him. It was some random
probably
tight
like
end
Ross Dwelly, dude.
Some random tight end I never even heard of. But I'm with you there, but it wasn't even him. I'm pretty sure he was running a route on that play. It wasn't even blocking him. What a fucking disgrace. loser Kyle Shanahan is. But keep blowing him. Great regular season coach. Amazing how he never won the Super Bowl and all the talent he's coached in his career. But all right, whatever. My shout out, you probably won't see this one coming with all this Sixers spew coming. I'm shouting out Joel Embiid. He did a great job again today. I get it, it's media. There's so many divas in pro sports, especially in the NBA. So many divas, guys that say the wrong things, just want to be in the media, want to say get people talking about him, and he does that online. He could have 1,000,000%, and I wouldn't have had any problem with it whatsoever if they were asking him all these hard questions at media day today, and he said, "To hell with all this, I'm getting frustrated." Whatever he could have said, even if it was a sus quote, he did the same thing he did today that when he did with Ben Simmons a few years back when he requested a trade, and he was seemingly like on his own there, just answering questions as mature and honest as possible, and just handling it like a man. And if he came out and said, "To hell with all this shit, I'm done, I'm out," I wouldn't blame him at all, because he's dealt with more shit in terms of in-house organizational crap than any other star, arguably in the history of the league. Do me a favor, the amount of drama keeping up with the fucking Kardashian type shit the the Sixers have in their building every year is a joke. And this of the week, another one, James Harden. How are you not showing the hell up? To hell with you. Screw you. I hate you. I will never respect you. You're a loser. You're a fraud. You're fat as shit. Retire. Your better days behind you. You want to win an MVP like your agent says? Go on to China and join a team there. That's your best shot at winning one and making all the money you want in the world and everyone respecting you and loving you. It ain't happening in Philly, let me tell you that. And go to LA. Clippers are perfect for him because they don't really have a fan base. Who the hell roots for the Clippers?
Yeah.
And they're in LA. So, I mean, when he shits the bed in the playoffs like he always does, you won't have a fan base to really shit on him all too much. So do that. Go to LA. I'm cool with that. But I think that's all we got for the day.
Yeah. One last time, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors for tonight, Gleason's Bar. Gleason's Bar is located at 6700 Mill Creek Avenue in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Use promo code HED for 10% off your order whenever you dine in, take out, or online. That's Gleason'sBarandSteaks.com. Thank you to everybody commenting, tuning in, liking, subscribing. Keep showing up. Keep tuning in. Rivals every Monday at 10:30. We'll be back next Monday. See ya.